kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to be making a fruity flavoured cider. What flavour? I haven't quite decided yet. I'm going to go and see what I can find in the shops, but I just want to go through some of the process with you. So I've got 2 apple trees at the back of my house. I've got this tree which makes dry cooking apples, and at the front of my house I've got this tree which makes sweet red eating apples. So between the 2 trees, they're dropping between 1.5 and 2 kilos of windfalls a day, and it's from that I'm going to make my cider apple base. So the cider apple base basically begins with the apples, and I just wash them like this. This is just from the tree at the back of the garden at the minute. But when I combine those with the trees from the front of the garden, steam them and push them through a sieve, I end up with something that looks like this. So I'm going to make between 20 and 22 litres of cider today, and I'm going to do it in this Rich's fermentation bin, and to that effect I'm going to add 4 kilos of apple base plus other ingredients, and I'll go through those ingredients with you when I've been to the shop. 1 return trip to Home Bargains later, I'm back and I'm ready to make my cider, and of course you know what flavour it is because you've seen the title of the film, but I've only just decided it's going to be raspberry and lemon flavour cider. So let's have a look at those ingredients. Okay, well, I talked about the apple purée that I was making earlier, and here I've got 4 kilos of it. So I'm going to make between 20 and 22 litres of cider, although there'll be a lot of sedimenty stuff in the bottom. And I'll probably end up with 15 litres that I'm going to bottle, and then somewhere in the region of 7 litres which I will still, which I'll need to filter afterwards, like I'm doing there with some I made earlier. I've got 5 litres of spring water here, but I'll probably be adding between 10 and 15 litres altogether. My yeast of choice today, well, is mostly Crystal Weissen yeast. It's my last packet of this, and I have had it a while now, so I do think it needs to be used up. And I've got a tiny amount of all-purpose red wine yeast left in here. I mean, literally a tiny amount, and I just think let's just get it used up and out of the way. So it's a bit of a Frankenstein in terms of yeast, but that's fine. Now, my raspberry and lemon flavour. Well, I was thinking strawberry and lime, and raspberry and lemon's not a million miles away, so hopefully it will work. So I've got this cider, and because I'm British, I want to call it Łowicz, but I think it's pronounced something like Łowicz, or something like that, because that L is pronounced, Łowicz actually. That L is pronounced with a W, I believe, in Polish. If anyone Polish is watching this, please tell me. I think it's pronounced something like Łowicz. Anyway. And this doesn't contain anything awful. It's just like sugar, water, concentrate of raspberry juice, concentrate of black carrot, acidity regulator, citric acid, vitamin C. There we go. No preservatives, no nasties. I like that. And of course, I had to, as soon as I saw this, I had to buy this because I just saw this and I got those limo pani vibes. So this is instant lemon tea, delicious, iced or hot. It's basically powder, and it says to make 1 litre of lemon tea, use 3 tablespoonfuls. So I'm just going to shove the whole packet in because I'm making 22 litres, so that's going to be like 60 tablespoonfuls. And again, in terms of ingredients, nothing awful. Sugar, citric acid, tea extract powder, natural lemon flavouring and colour. That's it. So, yeah, raspberry and lemon flavour cider. Did I mention the sugar? I've got 2 kilos of brewing sugar just here, dextrose monohydrate, just to up the ABV. I'm trying to achieve a starting gravity somewhere around about 1.050 or slightly north of that. As you've already seen, I've got my 2 kilos of brewing sugar in the pan, and I'm going to add to that 5 litres of spring water. I'm going to give this a good stir around so the sugar isn't clumped and stuck to the bottom. And then gas goes on. Woof. Right, and turn that down, and I want this to just warm up so the sugar dissolves. It doesn't need to boil. I'll come back to you when that's happening. Okay, the brew sugar has just about dissolved, so I'm now going to add the lemon tea, which is essentially lemon sugar. Very high in tannin though, because it's lemon tea. I'm just going to give that a stir around. I'm going to turn the heat off in about 5 minutes. I'll come back to you then. Okay, the heat is now off and that's pretty much dissolved. It's a bit dark to see through, but I'm pretty confident that there's no actual granules left in there, having stirred it round. So what I'm going to do now is get my apple puree just here. And I'm going to spoon it into this mixture because the apple puree has been in the fridge. So this is very cold. The mixture is warm, but this will bring the temperature of the mixture down, and then I can get it into the brew bucket quicker. So I've got to add all 4 kilos of this in there. I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, that's all the apple puree in, and I'm just going to give that a really good stir. It's going to make a hugely sedimenty cider, but believe you me, all that sediment carries an awful lot of flavour. Now this is no different to room temperature now, so that's good. I can start to put this together. So I've got my brew bucket in the sink. Let's see if I can just do a big pour without it going everywhere. Mostly. Oh, the drama. Yeah, happy with that. Right, we're going to have a change of rooms now. Okay folks, we've moved down into the utility room. I've moved here purposefully because this is a blooming heavy bucket when it's full to move, and I didn't want to fill it in the kitchen then have to carry it down steps. So I'm going to put the rest of the recipe together now down here. I've also got a couple of extra ingredients to add which I neglected to mention, which will be pectolase to hopefully help this to achieve clarity, and a little bit of yeast nutrient which it probably doesn't need, but I'm going to put it in anyway. Right, so in goes another 5 litres of spring water. I'm now on 15 litres, so I'm going to add a further 5 litres of spring water. And that brings me to 20 litres. And then I've got just over a litre left in this bottle here. I'm going to add that into it. Waste not, want not. Then I've got my Łowicz flavours to add in there. Oh, it smells gorgeous. Right, time to get these in. What a lovely colour it is. Okay, they're all in. Right, I'm just giving this a really big stir now because I want everything to combine and I want a consistent constituency for when I take the gravity. It absolutely smells and looks brilliant. These cordials, I've seen them before but I've never used them before, but if this turns out, I'm going to be using them a lot more. Right, we'll consider that stirred. Let's work out what the original gravity is. I said I wanted to achieve an original gravity round about the 1.050 mark, and look at that. I'm on about 1.054. I'm on 1054. 1.054. So I'm just going to put a little shake of pectolase in. I'm aiming for a couple of dessert spoonfuls or thereabouts. And the same with yeast nutrient. Oh, plop. That'll dissolve. That's why it's best to use a spoon. I'll give it another stir. Right, I'm just going to put my yeasts in, starting with the tiny bit of red wine yeast which is left. I mean, we are talking about less than half a teaspoon. Followed by the Crystalweizen yeast. Now this stuff is rocket fuel. It does tend to make quite a krausen. I'm hoping it's not going to burst through. It has done in the past now and again, but this is a very wide area that it's going to have a krausen over, so I'm hoping that the krausen will spread rather than go vertical. Let's see. So I'm just going to dunk the packet in there. So there's the yeast on top. That's the crystal Weissen. That's the red wine yeast. You can see they're very different. I'm just going to let them sink in naturally. So I'm going to put the fermenter lid on. It fits really tight. Cracking fit actually. Great seal. I do like these Rich's buckets. This is my third brew I've done in one, and the first two have worked great. Actually a lot faster fermenting in plastic, it seems, than it does in glass. I don't know whether that's just a coincidence or what, but that's how I've found it so far. So that's my bucket labelled. Brew day 1 is the 1st of September 22. I imagine I'm going to be racking this in a fortnight and bottling it within a month. Anyway, I'm going to come back to you with an update when fermentation begins, probably later today, and if not tomorrow. Catch you then, folks. Afternoon from the utility room, folks. It's a brew day 2 update for the raspberry and lemon cider. Let's have a look at it. Well, we can clearly see separation has taken place there, and at the bottom, nice amount of cider in the middle. It's going to be very trub and sediment heavy, and today I'm competing with the tumble dryer rather than the washing machine. But anyway, the good news is that fermentation has begun. I'm getting a big fat gassy bubble come through about every 15 to 20 seconds. Very satisfying to hear, and that will certainly pick up. I know with the Cross Maloof yeast, it normally takes about 2 to 3 days for action to really, start. So tomorrow I shall open this up and give it a stir, but let's just watch one of those big fat bubbles come through. Wasn't that nice? Okay, so unless anything dramatic happens in the interim, the next update from me will be in about 8-9 days time, when this is done fermenting hopefully, and I'm looking at getting towards racking. So catch you then, folks. Good morning from the utility room, folks. I've got a raspberry and lemon cider update for you today, because today on brew day 14 it is racking day. Fermentation is done, so I want to get it out of here, away from the trub, and I'm going to put it into these two vessels just here. So I've got what's in about 11 litre Munton wine fermenter just there, and then the standard 4.5 litre 1 gallon demijohn just here. There will be some left in there. There'll probably be as much as a gallon left in there, but it'll be really trubby and sediment heavy. It doesn't go to waste. I'm actually going to filter that. The liquid's going to go through my air still, and the solid, I might make something with it yet. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that. But today it's all about the cider and filling these two up. So I'm going to begin by lifting the lid on the bucket. Sometimes easier said than done. Oh, wasn't too bad actually. Right, I bet you want to look inside there. So this is what I've got in there. You can see the liquid actually looks fairly decently clear, but there is some trub on top, and there's certainly a lot of trub underneath. So the process today is a fairly straightforward one. It's possibly not the best way to do it because it does risk oxidisation, but fingers crossed, if I ruin it, it's my fault. I can't blame anybody else. And if I do make 3 gallons of vinegar, I just run it through the air still. Not a problem. Anyway, so the process today is going to involve me dipping a jug in there and then pouring things out of the jug through a funnel into the fermenting vessel for racking, for secondary, and that's going to go through a coffee filter, so any larger bits of trub will get trapped in there and won't go through. So I'll begin by demonstrating. So miscellaneous spoon just in case I needed it, but I don't think I do. So I'm just going to dip my jug in here and then pour it like that. And yeah, it will introduce some bits of tiny trub that can get through the filter, but it will actually not do too badly at all. And my experience of doing this is that it tends to be fairly clear within a fortnight. Now, as it happens, this is going to stay quite a long time in secondary, simply because I've completely and utterly run out of bottles. I don't have any kegs, so I'm quite happy to leave this in secondary, just settle in for as long as needs be. I really ought to get into kegging. Yeah, that's a consideration. So I've done 3 jugs. I'll show you what I've got now in the filter and how this is working. So you can see the filter is beginning to fill up with trub, and that's still dripping through nicely just there. This is going to be a fairly long and slow process, and if I'm completely honest with you, it's not the most exciting of things to watch. So I'll get back to you when I've filled these up and show you how it's turned out. Catch you then. Right, I've done for now. So this is what I've got. I've got the raspberry and lemon racked on the 14th of September 22, brew day 14, and the original gravity of 1.054 labelled on my Munton's wine fermenter and my demijohn. There's probably about 15.5 litres or so in there, and I'm going to leave this now to settle and clear naturally and until I've got enough bottles to put it in. Now I've got 5 litres of really trubby cider left in the bucket. You can see the marker on the side just there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this. I'm not going to do it right now, I'm going to do it later today, but I'm going to filter this, collect the solid matter and separate the liquid, and I'm going to still the liquid. So the liquid will become eventually some kind of brandy or schnapps, whatever I decide to flavour it with, or put it on oat chips or whatever I do. The solid, I'm not going to keep it all. I'm going to put some of it on the gardener's fertiliser, but some of it I'm going to turn into a delicacy called black butter. And black butter is something that is commonly eaten in Jersey and the Channel Islands, and it's basically cidery apple trub combined with sugar and licorice. That's going to be in a different film, so if you're interested in black butter and another use for your cider trub, then look out for my black butter film, which will be coming out at some point. Okay. Anyway, catch you later, folks. Good morning from the extremely busy kitchen, folks. There's all sorts happening, so I apologise for the background noise. As you can see, I've been baking bread. I've got apple cordial currently simmering to reduce it. I've been sanitising bottles, I've got the dishwasher on, I've got the air still making apple brandy. It's not even 9 o'clock. But today, it's all about that raspberry and lemon cider. Let's have a look at it. It's been racked for 25 days and it is lovely and clear. You can see my hand easily through the demijohn just there. It's got a small amount of sediment in each fermentation vessel, but I'm going to get that out of there today and into these bottles. So this is brew day 39 and I'm bottling on brew day 39, which makes this the fastest turnaround cider I've made from apples yet this apple season. I'm going easily double that. So I'm probably going to get around about 18 bottles, so I'll do them 6 at a time in the sink. So each of the bottles has been sanitised, and in each bottle I'm going to add a small amount of normal household caster sugar, which I'm going to refer to as priming sugar, and this is the equivalent of about 1.5 teaspoons, and that is per 750ml bottle. So the priming sugar is what will give this a sparkle. When the yeast, which is still left in there, finds this sugar, there'll be a fractional fermentation, the sugar gets smashed apart, and a byproduct of that will be a build-up of CO2, and that is what will give my cider a sparkle. That's the theory anyway, let's hope it works. So I'm going to take advantage of the fact that the Munton's wine fermenter has got that tap there, and I'm going to get some of that out now into this jug. I've just sanitised the jug, and if it's all sedimented then that might be an issue, but let's just see. Doesn't seem too bad. Right, so let's just have a look at that. It looks clear enough to me. You can see the bottom of the jug, no visible signs of sediment. So I'm going to pour that through this funnel into this bottle. So that looks pretty decent to me, to say it's the first one out. I think that's going to look nice and tidy in the bottle when it's finally cleared fully. I might end up with a little bit of sediment in the bottom, but it shouldn't be too bad at all, that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shove a bung in. So I've had my bungs, which are plastic bungs, softening in very hot water, which gives them a final clean and it makes them malleable. I'm going to push the bung into the bottle, like so. I'm then going to apply a cage on top of the bung. And I'm going to twist the cage in place, as you can see just here. And that cage will keep the bung in place because when that pressure builds up in there from the fractional fermentation that will take place, that'll go pop. So this prevents that from happening. Okay, I've got another 5 bottles to do here, and then I'm going to have another 6 bottles, and then I'm going to have another 6 bottles. It's a highly repetitive process. You don't need to watch me do all that, so I'll come back to you when I've got it out of there and into the bottles, and I'm ready to take the final gravity reading. See you in half an hour. Well, let me tell you, that was a bit of a mission. So I've got 17 bottles here in the sink, but I haven't actually managed to use everything up. I've still got some bits left, as you can see there and in here. I've actually run out of cages to hold the bungs in place. I can't believe it. I didn't realise I was so low on them. I need to order some more, obviously. They last about 3 times before they break, and I just hadn't realised I'd run down. Otherwise I would have had enough here to do another 2 bottles. Just to sort of point out that the cages themselves are all sort of recycled and second-hand, well, mostly anyway. So as for my 17 bottles, then they all need a shower because they've got sticky residue on them from the outsides from bottling. So I'm going to rinse these off and let them drain, and then we'll take the final gravity. So I've got some of the cider in my hydrometer tube. Let's work out what the final gravity is. Put that in. And the final gravity for this brew is 0.998. So before I calculate the alcohol by volume, I think a cheeky nifter is deserved. I've worked very hard this morning. It's dry, but it's not overly dry. You can definitely taste the raspberry, and that lemon comes through on the edge of it. This is going to be quite an interesting one, I think. I suspect that this might end up as a medium dry or somewhere in between a medium dry and a dry, but I need to wait for it to condition first. Anyway, let's work out the final alcohol by volume. Now I've got the final gravity, I can work out the alcohol by volume. So I started off with an original gravity of 1.054. I deduct from that the final gravity of 0.998, and that equals 0.056. And then I multiply this figure by 131.25, and I get a final alcohol by volume of 7.35%. Let's just say 7.4%, because after the fractional fermentation that will take place in the bottle anyway, that will increase ever so slightly. I'm very happy with that. Ka-ching. Okay, so I've got my label made up in a fairly simple template, and I've got this FOMEMO Bluetooth printer, so all I need to do now is send it from here to the printer and then tell it I want 17. Here we go. Isn't that pretty cool? It's labelling time, nice and straightforward. I've got plenty more to go. You don't need to watch me do it 16 more times. I'll come back to you when they're done. Okay, I'm back in the living room, folks. This is where my raspberry and lemon cider is going to condition, helped by the heat from my wood burner, and I do have an endless supply of wood, thankfully. So this is where it is up here, and it's going to be on top of this drinks cabinet now for at least the next month. So it's early morning. I've only just lit the fire about an hour ago. It's currently 19 up here, and I need to try and keep this above 19, ideally around 20 for the next month. On a sunny day like today, then my conservatory will help out because it's a south-facing one. And also inside the drinks cabinet, I have a light that comes on every evening which warms the whole top shelf. So the conditioning process is the process whereby the carbonation will develop and the flavour will develop also. It normally takes a month when the temperature is above 20. It might take a little bit longer now I'm into autumn. Let's wait and see what happens. I'll go by looking at the bungs and if they're beginning to raise, because when they start to stretch the cage, you can tell that carbonation has occurred. So the next film that you see from me will be in about a month's time, possibly 5 weeks, and that will be opening and tasting. Catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my raspberry and lemon cider premature grand opening night. And I say premature because it's not yet been in the bottle for a full month. It's been in 3.5 weeks, so I'm a few days early. But like everything else with this cider, it seems to be doing it very quickly. Look how much that bung has raised. Carbonation has definitely taken place. And I'm slightly worried that, you know, I could be looking at a bottle bomb unless I release that pressure. So I've decided I'm going to go for it and open it. So yeah, so that's raised by a good 3mm easily. Probably the most raised bung that I've seen yet. I mean, I shouldn't get a bottle bomb because these are very tolerant bottles and they weigh over 700 grams each, which is a good heavy duty champagne bottle. But still, the cage is what might be the weaker link. This one's just broke as I'm taking it off. And what I don't want to do is spray my living room with cider. My wife would kill me. Right, so what I want when I open this is to get a pop. I should get one, hopefully. I want it to smell nice, I want it to pour nice, look good in the glass, clear, but above all I want it to taste nice. It's a lot to ask for. Now if, when I pour this, it doesn't seem right, like it's not yet conditioned properly, then that's fine. This will be the first opening and tasting, and I'll do another one in a couple of weeks' time. Let's see what happens. Am I going to get a pop? Oh, I did, but it weren't a massive pop, but I've got vapour, okay? So that's a good sign. Oh yes, look at that. That is carved absolutely spot on. I'm happy with that. Right, listen. Okay. So it's not a strong carbonation at this point, and that's only going to increase over time. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months for a really good sparkle to develop, but that definitely is sparkling. And it smells wonderful. The raspberry syrup is absolutely coming through like nobody's business. You can get it straight away. And it looks beautiful, actually. What a lovely colour that is, isn't it? I'm quite happy with that. Definitely sparkling. Definitely tastes like raspberry. Definitely tastes like lemon. It both comes through nicely balanced, really well balanced actually. Do you know what? This is a great cider. Blowing my own trumpet. Somebody's got to. This is really good. This would be a brilliant summer drink. It's a pity it's now November, but never mind. But do you know what? This is great. I'm really, really pleased with this. And it's only going to improve as it conditions longer. I don't feel like I need to do another film. All you're going to see is it probably be a bit fizzier. But yeah, this is a decent cider. It's one of the first ones I've had ready from this season, from this season's apple fall, that's not been a turbo cider. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased with this. So cheers, folks. And I'll catch you on the next film, whatever that may be. Whoa, stop. In my excitement, I forgot to mention the taste profile of this. And whilst the raspberry and lemon flavour comes through, it is quite a medium dry cider. The raspberry gives it a tiny fraction of sweetness, but otherwise it would have been dry. So I'm going to put it down as a medium dry cider. Okay, now I'm definitely going. Catch you next time. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.